Hello, this is Sierra and welcome to another video. Today we're reading chapter 34 of Hermitcraft Mayhem. Today we are just diving right in and seeing where it goes. This is rescue mission to rescue Impulse and, well, Green, as we found out last episode. If you haven't read the previous chapters, well, obviously there's going to be spoilers, but some people just don't care, and that's fine. Just want to dive right in. There is a playlist in the description if you want to follow along there. But this is my Minecraft-inspired fanfiction where I put Minecraft YouTubers into a Minecraft world and see what happens. It's a universe that I created, and own rules, my own little Minecraft liberties, and all that stuff. So, let's get right into it. There is subtitles if you want to follow along there, but you are not entitled to. So, you don't have to, but if you want to follow along with the chapter that way, you can. And yeah, I'm still having a lingering cold, so lingering cough, and sniffles. Let's get on the road. Something big is happening, Julius mused quietly, peeking around the door to the hallway. Blake, Sam, and Julius had snuck into the base half an hour ago. But they were no closer to finding Impulse as they were when they first arrived. Looks like it, Sam agreed, glancing over the older boy's shoulder. What do you think they're doing? I'm not sure, but I hope it's got nothing to do with Impulse, Julius said sourly. A bitter taste formed in Blake's mouth as he nodded. They made it this far without getting caught. But why were there so many men here? How many clones did Conover need? And they definitely were clones. He knew that for a fact. He'd seen at least 6 of the same guy passing through this space already. Is it clear to keep moving? Blake asked, tapping his cousin on the shoulder. These were one of the times he wished he could feel what his charge was feeling, to know if he was in any danger. To be fair, being in the enemy's lair was bad enough, but with Gerald, he didn't know what the man had up his sleeve. So, I think they seem to be congregating around the portal room. Pulse isn't there, right? Blake asked nervously. Julius glanced over his shoulder. Shouldn't be. You don't have any reason to know we're here. Let's try to keep it that way, Sam hissed, putting her finger to his lips. The other 2 boys nodded as they snuck out of the conference room and tiptoed across the hall to another room. Julius groaned. How many offices does one man need? He has to be closed, Sam said, giving the older boy a nod. Julius sighed as they kept going, checking each room as they went. Every so often, they had to dash behind a door to avoid being spotted by soldiers. It appeared they were moving machinery. Had they recently built a new room? Or were they bailing? Why would they need to? Unease trickled through the boy. What if Gerald was planning to use Impulse as bait? To keep him just out of reach until he got what he wanted. Moving his prisoner from base to base would make it more challenging for rescuers to find him. There was definitely at least one prisoner here from Julius and Sam's spying several hours ago. Blake just hoped Gerald hadn't moved him yet. The last thing Blake needed was to chase these men down across the universe, so he would do it. Impulse was more than just his charge, but also a friend. Like a father he never got to have, after his uncle betrayed his biological father. Blake closed his eyes and sighed. The last decade of his life certainly had been an adventure. But here he was, deep in the belly of the beast, rescuing one of his friends, fighting to stop Gerald from hurting any more innocent people. The trio were nearing the end of the hall. They were on the 2nd floor now, which was where Impulse had believed himself to be when speaking to Jem. Blake spotted a soldier coming out of a room further down the hall as the boys vanished from sight. He looks different from the others, Sam noted quietly, his deep blue eyes watching the man's every move intently. That's saying something, considering the amount of clones we have here, Julius mused. I never thought Gerald would be the kind of guy to clone an army. Clone himself, yes, but an army? That's a good point, Sam pondered, peeking out from the doorway to yet another conference room. Gerald doesn't trust anyone else but himself. So why does Conover want an army? Blake asked. If it's not Gerald who's behind this. It could be Richard, Sam shrugged. He could be trying to get his brother back. Is that possible? Blake's eyes widened. He managed to bring back Franklin. Right, Blake nodded. We're going to make sure they can't get their hands on this kind of technology again, Julius stated matter-of-factly. We will, Sam said calmly, looking back at his friends, with a firm determination on his face as he gestured for the trio to move forward. That's when he heard a familiar cry that sent chills down his spine. Impulse. Before Blake could open his mouth to speak, the other boys were already on their feet and charging toward the sound. Blake scrambled to follow them, pulling out his sword as he took note of the hallway. There were no sign of guards, but perhaps they were elsewhere in the building. Hopefully the jerks wouldn't be paying them a visit in a few minutes. Stay away from him, Gerald! Sam roared, disappearing into the open doorway. Julius at his heels. Blake froze in the doorway, watching as his friend jumped into action. There were 3 men in the room. Gerald, Robert Sharp, and Kyle Pierce. Julius lunged at Kyle with a raging fire in his eyes. Sam tackled Gerald away from a bed in the middle of the room. His eyes widened as recognition set in. Deactivate the headband, Julius shouted at his cousin, snapping Blake out of his daze. There was a cell to his right, where he could see a bed, table, and chair. Chained to the bed was his charge, curled in a fetal position, groaning in pain, as his headband glowed a piercing blue. Blake charged into the room, knocking over Robert, who was attempting to sneak behind Sam to jump him. He glanced to make sure the man wasn't behind him, as he pulled the lever, unlocking the cell door. Pulse, can you hear me? Blake fell to his friend's side, pulling out a medical kit, hoping to fetch one of the spare chips for the headband. Why hadn't he put one in his pocket? That didn't matter now. His friends needed him. He wasn't going to let them down. Blake, look out! Julius's cry caused the young man to look up, in time to see a shadow lunging at him. Blake yelped as he scrambled out of reach of Sharp's hands. I'd keep out of the way if I were you. Sharp narrowed his eyes as he lunged at Blake again. Blake dove toward his sword, holding up in defense as the man tried to grab for his arm. Blake swung the blade at the man's head. Robert yelped, but pulled himself closer. Try that again, and I'll show you what it means to really hurt. Yeah, like I'm going to let you torment my charge. That's not happening, Blake said matter-of-factly. As Impulse's scream filled the cell. Blake glanced over, noticing the hermit was subconsciously grabbing for the headband, his face soaked with tears. Anger filled the boy as he shoved Robert back, opening the medical kit before snatching what he needed. How are you guys holding up? Blake called over to his friends. Julius had dealt with Kyle, who was now slumped to the floor, his clothes still smoking. His cousin was now helping Sam keep Gerald at bay while the boy was trying to free Grian from its restraints. How had Grian even gotten here anyway? It'd be useful if we could get the controller to turn off, Julius grunted, blocking another swipe from Gerald, who was trying to skirt around him to get to Sam. It's not going to be easy, as you're thinking it'll be, Gerald sneered. It would if we had a working null, Julius jeered back. The man laughed. Your friends aren't smart enough to crack something like that. Want to bet? Blake forced back a smile, dodging out of another attack from Sharp as he went to his friend's side, placing the headband into place. The chip. Sorry. I didn't realize it until as soon as I said it. The chip into place. Now! Sharp howled in rage from behind Blake, tackling him from behind just as the boy pressed the button on the chip. The boy yelped in surprise as he was flung away from his weapon, and his friend slamming hard on the cobblestone floor. You think you're so clever! Robert snarled, spitting saliva into the boy's face. Blake squirmed to shove the man off, but Robert only tightened his grip on the boy's arms, sitting on top of the boy to keep him down. What do you think your charge will say when he finds out how you foolishly got in our way? Get yourself killed. I don't think that's going to happen, Sharp, Blake said calmly, trying to kick his legs up in the man, but the man only laughed. Do you ever wonder what happens to those who fail in their assignments? Robert asked. You know you can't save both of them, even if you get out of we're coming after you. You think that's going to scare me? Blake grunted. Just an explosion filled his ears, and the man on top of him screamed in pain as he went flying across the small room, slamming hard into the stone wall before collapsing into a heap on the floor. You'll pay for that, boy! Gerald roared. Blake quickly sat up in time to see Julius dive out of the way of another attack from Gerald, a sword in one hand and a blaster in the other. A smile tugged on the edges of Blake's mouth as he pried off the now deactivated headband from Impulse's forehead, wincing at the sight of an ugly red line where the headband had been. What had these men done to him? Don't worry, we'll get you out of here, Blake whispered, squeezing the hermit's shoulder. His only response was a groan, but it was enough. His friend was going to be okay. He would make sure of that. You can't keep fighting like this forever, Gerald, Julius warned. Blake looked back up, startled to see that his cousin and the murderer was now inching ever so closer toward the cell, away from Green, who was now free of both restraints and headband. Sam was checking him over, glancing up every now and then to keep an eye on Gerald's whereabouts. Neither can you, Royster. Gerald sneered, saving plays for himself. All it takes is one button, and all of your efforts mean nothing. Gerald? Julius growled as Gerald lunged toward the door, the young man charging after him as the man cackled with glee. Julius, come back! Sam shouted as the man and boy vanished into the hall. The boy did not return, as Sam shook his head. We need to get out of here. How? This place is well guarded, isn't it? Blake asked, getting to his feet. It was. Not sure it still is, with these guys moving everything elsewhere, Sam replied, looking over at him. We need to find that clone machine and destroy it, and any other versions they might have. Why do they have to make things so difficult? Blake sighed. Sorry. Sorry. Scooping Impulse into his arms as a groan filled the room. Sam? An exhausted voice asked. It took Blake a moment to realize it was coming from Green. Need to rest. You've been through a lot tonight, Sam said gently as the hermit slowly sat up. Green reached for his head, shaking it from side to side. His eyes looked distant, like he wasn't entirely there as the hermit yawned. He's building an army. We're not going to let them win. Sam replied firmly. Liam? He's okay. Sam smiled, wrapping an arm around the hermit. You up for a little flying? I can barely keep my eyes open. Korean yawned again, rubbing his eyes sleepily. We're here to get you out, Sam said with a nod. Get you home. Home. Korean smiled sleepily. It's like that. Hang tight for a minute, okay? Sam asked before turning his attention to Blake. Got any spare invis? Maybe. Blake replied. Good. We're going to need it. That was when the alarm went off, and Julius came charging into the room. We need to go. Already on it, Brewster. Sam smirked, running toward the window and opening it before returning to the bed. Everybody ready to go? So ever be, Blake agreed with a nod. Another smile appeared on Sam's face as he helped Korean to his feet, heading toward the window. Escape was near, but it would still be a way to go before they would make it home. Sorry. It's just how it is sometimes. That's going to be the end of that. Let me try that again. That's going to be the end of that chapter. Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait till next week to see what happens next. We're going to move on to beat-ups and returning home saga begins. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be the next few chapters. It's going to be all live. That's going to be enjoying. It's going to be interesting. I hope you guys enjoy that. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one, whenever that might be. Sorry. Gotta do what you gotta do. Goodbye.